So we are back for another edition of rating the MCU on Flurkins. We are going to be doing phase 2 today, and we have Chris with us this time around, along with Eric and Tim and myself, who you'll probably disagree with every take I have on this. We are doing this in a hope to get around to doing all the DC movies as well, and then pitting them all against each other, because what else is there to do in 2020? So we will kick things off with Iron Man 3, and this should start a very spirited conversation, I think. And instead of going in order of takes, we're going to mix it all up this time. So, Tim, you want to start us off with Iron Man 3?
You're mixing it up by having me go first again?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I just like last week, this is the movie that I just finished watching, and I am continually surprised at how good this movie is. Yeah, I think a lot of it boils down to people just don't like how the Mandarin was handled, but you have to think that they didn't want two movies close together with dudes shooting stuff out of their hands like and Thanos does. So with that being said, I thought it was handled pretty well, and I really like the challenges that Tony had to go through in this movie. He definitely had to think outside the suit, so to speak. But overall, I really, really enjoy this movie, and it was a great way to round out the trilogy, and I loved his monologues. It's a solid 8 out of 10 Flurkins.
Wow. All right, Chris, what's your take, my man?
Iron Man 3, definitely the first time I saw it, wasn't the biggest fan of it. I love the fact that there were more than one suit in it. I love that he had a lot going on with it. And like you said, Tim, I love the different challenges that he had to face. I wasn't a huge fan of Pepper in this movie. I will say, I thought that it was very interesting the way that they kind of played her character in this one, and it kind of seemed like that jealous girlfriend of all the exes kind of coming in and whatnot. But I agree with Tim. I definitely give it an 8 out of 10, even with all those like little minor things. Overall, the fact that you had like 30 to 40 suits plus all that action, and it really set up for the rest of the MCU. And I mean, I love that the Mandarin wasn't the actual Mandarin, because it really played on that role of, we're going to have this guy kind of be this figurehead that actually isn't doing anything, but there's still someone behind the scenes pulling the strings for later on. So 8 out of 10 for me.
Eric, what do we got, my man?
I didn't love it, but I don't hate it. It's more, I'd say give it a 6 out of 10. Action was great. I love the suits. The suits were great. I didn't like the Mandarin. I thought what we thought was the Mandarin definitely should have been the Mandarin. So I didn't like that. And honestly, I needed more Rhodey. There wasn't enough Rhodey for me. So I give it a 6 out of 10.
So this was one of my least favorite films in all of the Marvel films. I didn't like the handling of the Mandarin. I get that they were going a different angle with it. I kind of want to see the rings take place in the MCU. So it wasn't really, I had hopes that it was going to expand on something when I found out the Mandarin was going to be there. I was like, oh, cool, we're going to get the rings. This is going to be amazing. It didn't happen. Suits were cool. The line, what is it? Ever since the big guy with the hammer fell out of the sky, everything's changed, or the rules have changed. That, I love that, because that just totally set up everything to come. It's one of my favorite lines in the MCU. I like Tony Stark battling the PTSD stuff. A lot of the layers of this character really came out in the third one. I will say I was kind of bored in the movie. I was let down by the handling of the Mandarin, and it kind of skewed everything for me. I've gone back. I've rewatched it like 5 or 6 times. Still not very good in my opinion. I give it 5 out of 10 Flurkins, and I think that's generous for me. But it served its purpose to set a lot of stuff up that was to come. It did that, and so I guess we got to give it credit for that. So now is that time Actually, I'll refrain from saying anything. I want to be open mind. But we get to Thor: The Dark World. What are everybody's thoughts on Thor: The Dark World? We'll start with Chris this time.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, it definitely was not my least favorite movie of the entire MCU. Hulk is definitely still that one that I can't stand the most, mainly because I still feel that it exists outside of the MCU. But Thor: The Dark World, definitely with the ether, set up a lot. And I really did like the characters of the Dark Elves. I thought that they were really well done and really cool. I thought that they did it okay. I wouldn't say that they did it well. It was definitely a weird movie. I loved the Thor Loki kind of team up in it, and as well as the whole idea that he truly is a trickster, but he's not always a trickster for the bad guys. Sometimes he does work with Thor, and that was a really cool dynamic to see. With all that being said, I think that's the best I can say. I'd give it a 4 out of 10, in all honesty.
I think that's fair. Eric, what do you got?
This movie was absolutely terrible. No fault of the actors whatsoever. I definitely don't blame them. Whoever wrote the story, directed it, it just wasn't good for me. I didn't laugh at any of the jokes. So I'm giving this a 1 out of 10. No, I didn't like it at all. We'll never watch it again. Never.
I love the take. Tim?
I thought the movie was pretty disjointed. The scene, some of the way that things were shot were kind of iffy for me. For having such an important plot point as like the nine realms, like coming together, like the planets and Hercules, it was very lackluster. They did a terrible job of making it, of giving it a scale and giving it a sense of peril. Uh, I really hated Malekith, just mainly just for the way he looked. I looked at some of the old Battle Lines covers that I was looking at collecting, and I saw his half was it yellow and purple face, and like Chris said, I love the team up with Thor and Loki. I think their banter was really really well done in this movie, and watching it, I actually forgot about Chris Evans' cameo.
Given that you seem to like them so much.
Oh, this is much better. Whoa. Costume's a bit much. So tight. But the confidence, I can feel the righteousness surging. Hey, you want to have a rousing discussion about truth, honor, patriotism? God bless them.
The human characters were much less annoying, save for Eric Selvig. Kat Dennings. Overall, it was great to be able to focus again on the Reality Stone, because this is not the greatest movie ever. It's easily overshadowed by other movies that handle like the Tesseract or the Power Stone. So it was kind of neat to realize, oh yeah, there's a Infinity Stone that's just floating goo. So overall, it was pretty average for me. I'm gonna give it 5 out of 10 Florkins.
That was very well thought out, by the way, Tim. I love it. This is my least favorite MCU movie. I actually fell asleep in the theater the first time, went back a second time, and just left in the middle. That's not my Thor. If they wanted to make a Loki movie, I would have been all about it. They didn't do Thor like it needed to be done. And honestly, Tim, I totally forgot about that whole component of the movie because I was so disinterested in it. So thank you for reminding me that the movie actually had a purpose. CGI didn't have me. I think the Chris Evans cameo was like the only thing that I was like, oh, that's cool. The acting was actually great in the movie. It's just the writing was very poor. As we've seen Hemsworth like down the line, the dude's got a sense of humor. The dude has some range. Yeah, they had a dime in there that they could have done so much with, and they just didn't. They wanted to have this just dark movie and very subdued. I just wasn't feeling it. It also gets a 1 from me. Not only is it my least favorite movie in the MCU, but there's actually a DC movie I like better than it, which is very rare for me.
Just real quick, while I'm editing all of this, I was looking for scenes from each of these movies to put in here, and to find a Thor Dark World scene that was good was almost impossible.
So moving on to Winter Soldier. Do you want to start with Eric?
This is how you make a great MCU movie. This not only is it a great MCU movie, it's a great movie in general. Spy thriller. I absolutely loved it. Loved Cap's new suit. Love the beginning scene where on the ship and he's fighting, whooping ass. I love that. I love Black Widow in this movie, and also Nick Fury. Love him as well. So I give this a 10 out of a 10. This is probably a top 2 movie for me in the MCU. It's great, and I love it.
Nice. What about you, Chris?
So I can't rate it a 10 out of 10. It was an absolutely phenomenal movie. I definitely thought that it truly played on along the lines of a great movie. And I feel like when I first saw it, before everything else came out relating to the MCU, I would have given it a 10 out of 10. I don't know that the storyline pushed the MCU forward enough to give it a 10 out of 10. I thought that it really did well to kind of like change the status quo of who we thought S.H.I.E.L.D. was. I would definitely give it a 9 out of 10 simply because the fight scenes were amazing. That elevator scene was just so well choreographed. I mean, you're talking about fighting in probably a 4x4 box, and you've got 10 guys fighting at the same time. I mean, it was phenomenally well done. And the scene with the motorcycle versus the Quinjet was perfect. I loved every second of that. Everything fight-wise was actually believable. And that's what I love about the Captain America movies is all the fights are not just well choreographed, but you can actually see them happening. And it's not something that is so over the top that only a superhero could do this. You're seeing this kind of human aspect to it, and I feel like Civil War, along with the fact that it was a spy thriller, really played into that. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Nice. Well thought out response there. What about you, Tim?
I didn't even take notes for this because it's that amazing of a movie. One of my favorite scenes in that entire movie, even though there's so many to choose from, is the scene where him and Black Widow go into the old bunker at his old military base and find out Arnim Zola. And and I loved the little callback to his comic book look with the camera on top and the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was just so cool and just such a creative way to bring back the character as we know him, and just watching that one fight with him fighting Bucky on the bridge where he finds out it's Bucky.
Bucky? Who the hell is Bucky?
The knife choreography that they had in that movie was just so good. Play on that take of you can't trust anybody, even someone like Black Widow, who he's worked with before and had to trust. So overall, I thought it was just such an amazing movie, and solid 9 out of 10 Florkins.
Nice. This is a movie for me that it grew on me over time. I think the first time I saw it was like sensory overload, especially sitting through Iron Man 3 and Thor for me, which I didn't like. So I got around to this one with low expectations. And man, you put Natasha, you got Falcon, just the team up in here was just great. And what they did with the characters was so good. Even the little name drop of Doctor Strange in the movie, that part really got me excited. Very well done. It's one of those that it's better each time I watch it, I think, where I notice different things, and I think it really set the tone for a lot of events to come. Just excellent. So I give it 8 out of 10, I think. A 9 is saved for only a couple. It was really well done. It's really well thought out. I think just the team executed very well. I actually don't have many critiques of it. It's interesting that you had so many. There wasn't like a bad, it was just there's so many angles to look at and really perspectives, and the emotions were high in this movie too. So where some of the movies tend to fall flat, rely more on the action, I think the emotions of this movie was very high. It's a very good example of using the strengths of each actor. So very big fan of it. So I definitely go 8 out of 10 Flurkins for that.
So, MCU fans, that's going to wrap up our Phase 2 Part 1 video. The next one will be coming out in a week on Wednesday. It will be very similar to this. We're going to continue talking about this. And then Phase 3, we're going to split up a little bit differently because it's so long. There's 11 movies in it. So we're going to talk about the first 5 movies. Then we're going to actually talk about the next 6 in 2 different parts. We're going to have Infinity War and Endgame be their own separate part, and the rest of those movies kind of play off of that and talk about them separately, just so that way you guys don't have long videos to watch. We don't want that. With all that being said, if this is your first time watching, we hope that you go down below, hit that subscribe button, and also make sure to like this video, comment on it. We're trying to hit 100 subscribers right now, and we're also trying to hit 500 followers across our 3 social media platforms. So that involves Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We hope that you follow us on as many of those as possible. Have a great day, and as always, keep it casual.